leaders is done with anonymity. I'm not doing it because it's me. I don't want cover because it's me. I'm doing it because I'm supporting an important cause. And therefore, the focus is really not on the person, but the focus is on what they accomplish and the inspiration that they provide. You know, we don't have any Jewish heroes. Yadus is against heroes, idolizing men, because we reserve all of our akara and recognition to our Kadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, we downplay the role of men, which is difficult because the person doesn't get involved in his own ego gratification. So I'd say the speaker today is someone who is very close to being a Jewish hero. Very close.
It depends on you. You decide.
Well, I'll let the boys decide that. So very close to being a Jewish hero, but I'm not sure if I mentioned his name before I introduce him. But before I introduce the speaker, we have two other special people here that probably don't want me to mention. Dr. Berkowitz, who is sponsoring the program today, who will actually do the introduction in English and maybe Dr. Russian. Mr. Ben Landa, you got to hold off because the new building that we're all excited about, a lot has to do to Mr. Landa. Thank you very much for contributing. Anyway, the speaker is someone who, in our youth, my youth, I'm sure others as well, Rabbi, actually attended Soviet Jewry rallies. There was an organization called SSJ. I actually invited Glenn Richter to be here today because I didn't know that you were friendly with him. He said you're spending Shabbos in Tina. I wanted him to surprise you, and it turns out he was on this past Shabbos and he couldn't make it. Otherwise, he'd come. He started the organization, the Student Struggle for Soviet Jewry. Right, was an amazing organization, and I think by and large, a lot of the rallies that we do today are because of the inspiration I got way back when. You know, that's important to rally, make your voices heard, and not be silent. So, Rabbi Yosef Mendelevich, who is, to my mind, very close to a hero. Very close. Okay, his wife will say the same thing.
A mile from being
from the distance, from Eretz Yisrael. Okay, we'll be speaking to us, telling us his amazing story. I'll ask Dr. Berkowitz to introduce him and speak briefly in terms of rallies and what this meant to you as someone that also grew up in this Soviet Union.
Thanks, Rabbi Friedman, and thanks everybody for coming. Apologize in advance. I'm not great at public speaking, but I'll do what I can. I'll do my best. So first, I'm going to say a few words in Russian. Вы знаете, я вырос в семье призывников, и у детей есть, у многих мальчиков есть герои, когда они растут. Это обычно какие-то спортсмены или какие-то... Я вырос в Киеве, вы видите, да?
Daniel, can you translate?
Когда я... I'll repeat everything in English. Когда я рос, когда я был тинейджером, мои герои были те, кто боролся за наше право на миграцию. Это были люди, как Анатолий Шаранский, это были люди Андрей Сахаров, это, конечно же, были люди, такие, как я. А вас, конечно, я слышал сначала только негативную пропаганду, но мои родители мне рассказали всю правду. И ваша история, она всегда нас вдохновляла, она давала надежду, она давала нам веру в то, что когда-нибудь что все равно свет победит тьму, и лучшее будущее ждет нас впереди. А теперь я перейду на английский. Ну, спасибо вам большое от всего сердца. So now I'm going to repeat what I said to Rabbi Mendelevich in English. So I grew up in former Soviet Union in a family of refuseniks. So for those of you who may not have heard the term, that was a term for people, for Soviet Jewish families who were refused our right to immigrate. My family has been struggling for a number of years, almost 10 years, until we finally were allowed to leave. And that was actually, that was a movement that gained momentum in late 1960s, early 1970s, in part inspired by a great victory of Israel in the 1967 war, the Six-Day War. So you've heard of name. I'm sure all of you heard the names of Anatoly Sharansky, and he was certainly one of the heroes. Well, another hero is sitting right here in this audience, and he's about to address us. You see, as the for every teenage boy has his heroes, and for many teens, their heroes are either sports stars or some superstars. Well, for somebody who grew up in a family of refuseniks, my heroes were people who were fighting for Soviet Jews, who were fighting for our cause. There were people who were fighting for us in the United States, like for instance, Rabbi, and certain simple American Jews who fought for our, Rabbi Friedman actually played no small part in that. But certainly one such hero was the person who is here, Rabbi Yosef Mendelevich, who's about to share with us his story. See, stories of Jews like him, they inspired us. They gave us hope that one day light will prevail over darkness, even though Soviet Union seemed intolerable at the moment. Throughout Jewish history, we hear the well-known story of King David confronting Goliath, and throughout Jewish history, certainly there are many examples of that, of our people overcoming much stronger obstacles, whether it's the story of Hanukkah, whether it's the story of Israel in 1948 and 1967, and it's certainly the story of our speaker today. Look where Soviet Union, that seemed infallible, where Soviet Union no longer exists, we are here. I'm here because of great people like Rabbi Mendelevich. So, without further ado, Rabbi Mendelevich, добро пожаловать к нам в Yeshivu, and welcome to our talking.
Specifically about his high school experience in Soviet Union.
Good morning, everybody. A lot of you have heard recently they came out with a movie called The Underdog, story about Kurt Warner. And they made him a hero. He went from stocking shelves in the supermarket to being a Hall of Fame quarterback. That is a hero to the American public. To us Jews, and to me in particular, my hero, one of my heroes is standing right here. I had three heroes in my life: Rabbi Mendelevich, Zev Jabotinsky, and Rabbi Meir Kahana, Hashem Yikam Dimo. In 1970, when I was a 14-year-old boy living in Brooklyn, New York, going to a typical Brooklyn yeshiva, I believe it was 12 Russian refuseniks in the bid to get out of the Soviet Union, to exercise their right to be Jews, to live in their land, their ancestral land, Eretz Yisrael, were arrested by the KGB. I believe he was arrested in Leningrad, right? And Rabbi Kahana called for a demonstration. Sorry, Rabbi Friedman, but it wasn't like students struggle for Soviet Jewry. It was a little more violent with Rabbi Kahana's demonstrations. And I went. I was a 14-year-old boy. Why did I go? I just became aware a few months before that about the Holocaust. My parents were both Holocaust survivors. And I remember coming home from school one day with my loose leaf. In those days, I'm talking 50 plus years ago, we used to have loose leaves and we divided up in different sections: science, math, and social studies. We called history in those days. And the abbreviation for social studies is SS. And when my mother saw that, she turned white in the face. And she explained to me the meaning of the SS. The SS, for those who don't know, was the regime, the Nazi regime's killing machine, that sole purpose was to wipe out all the Jews of Europe. Yes?
What does it stand for?
Stonsten, something in German. It's a German term.
And in English, that means?
Basically, it was Hitler's special police. The head of the SS was a Machshemay Reinhard Heinrich and Heinrich Himmler. I don't know if people heard those names. They were the heads of the SS. Eichmann was part of the SS, who thankfully Israel made a Kiddush Hashem and captured him and executed him. But that's for a different topic, for a different day. But the bottom line is I started reading up books about the Holocaust. And when I heard about the arrest of these 12, well, not all of them were Jewish, by the way. I believe, right?
By chestnut.
Yes, but the 12 brave, let's call them 12 brave Soviet Jews. The two words that resonated in my mind more than anything else were the words that Rabbi Kahana coined. And those two words are never again. And I was warned not to go to the demonstration, even though it wasn't during Limudei Kodesh, it was during Limudei Chol. And I went, and it got very violent, almost got arrested. And that's how I met Rabbi Kahana, and the relationship that developed till the day he died. And
He was killed.
he was killed. He was killed in New York. I saw him 3 days before he was killed. And his friend Binyamin was a very close friend of mine as well, Binyamin Zev. So, if not for that demonstration, I believe two of the prisoners that were arrested by the KGB, I believe Mark Dimshitz and Edward Kutzinov, were going to be executed.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Mendelevich was going to give them like a 25 to 30-year sentence of hard labor. Life. And that's not a jail like in upstate New York. That's in the concentration camps in Siberia, in the gulags. And I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to let Rabbi Mendelevich explain how he was Mesiras Nefesh in the Soviet system. He's going to explain it to you boys. But the bottom line is that demonstration, I believe, what Rabbi Kahana organized, galvanized the world, awakened everybody to the plight of Soviet Jews, and the sentences were commuted. They still went to jail, but no one was executed. And Baruch Hashem, all of them got out. Sylvia Zalmanson, Edward Kutzinov, Rabbi Mendelevich, and they all went to Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. And that's how my connection comes, by the way, to this yeshiva Rambam. My connection to Rambam is, I have no high school kids, I'm a grandfather, and my grandchildren live in Eretz Yisrael. They made Aliyah 12 years ago. My connection is when I read an article about Rabbi Friedman organizing a demonstration against a Nazi that was living in Queens. I came over to Rabbi Friedman and said, where were you 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, when I was a high school kid, where I would have been encouraged to go out and demonstrate and not be thrown out of yeshiva because I went to a demonstration to help my fellow Jews. But I'm going to let Rabbi Mendelevich explain and tell you his life story. By the way, Rabbi Mendelevich, I did make many trips to Riga, just to retrace his steps. Yes,
Recently?
many over the years. I've been to Rumbala. That Rumbala is most of the Latvian Jews during the war were killed during the Holocaust.
30,000. 30,000.
Yeah, in Rumbala. So Rumbala is a forest outside Riga. I went to the Jewish ghetto. I even, if you don't mind me saying so, I went to see the prison, the KGB headquarters, which was on Lenin Street. Now it's called Rigavis.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
Yes, I've been there as well. So the hero's a hero.
Inside as well?
Inside as well. It's a museum today.
Yeah.
Yes. But he'll explain to you how difficult life was in this Soviet Union. You can't imagine, and then I'll turn over the microphone to him. You can't imagine what life was like growing up in the Soviet Union. I can only know it from reading in books. First of all, the country was, right after the war, everything was bombed out, broken survivors from all over the former Soviet Union living there. There was nothing in Kashmir. Forget about Ruchnius. Ruchnius was totally cut off. The regime didn't let you do anything related to Judaism or to Israel. And somehow there was a spark. A lot of it had to do with the 6-Day War, as the doctor said, that awoken Soviet Jews, and they realized they have a homeland and they've been lied to by the government, by the communist government of Russia. And I'm going to turn it over to him and let him tell you his life story. But truly, Kurt Warner shouldn't be a hero. You have a hero right here, Rabbi Yosef Mendelevich.
So you understand that I'm not a rabbi, I'm a hijacker. Ever seen a Jewish hijacker? It's me. What means hijacker? You take weapon, they take over forcibly an airplane. It was easy to do because we had a Jewish pilot. Otherwise, we hijackers have to compel the pilot to bring us to a certain place, and all the time we are not sure that maybe he's cheating us. In our case, we had our Jewish pilot, and we were sure that he will take us over the border. And indeed, what we would do with the real one, the official pilot, we decided not to kill him. For we Jews, try not to kill people, and it's will serve badly to our case. Those killed people on the way to freedom is not the best way to get your freedom. So I will tell you how it happened. In fact, our plan was to buy tickets on a regular flight inside Soviet Russia, for we are not permitted to leave Soviet Russia legally. To buy tickets for a regular flight that will bring us close to the border. And Mr. Dimshitz, the pilot that used to be a major in Russian Air Forces, he took several times a flight to check it, and he selected, there were certain flights to select up, and so he selected a different, a special flight that will bring us some 50 miles close to Finnish border. You know some geography, Norway, Scandinavia. There in the north, Russia has common borders with Finland. So 50 miles, it's very, for us, for an airplane, a very small one, it's not much time to get over. Also, you can be shot on the air. Anyway, we planned that coming to a certain place, landing, the pilot will open the door to let us out. For it was, as it was mentioned, only for 12 passengers, mostly tourists. The Russian tourists, you imagine excellent place to have tourism. And then the pilot would let us out. And instead, we would take the pilot and ask him politely to stay outside for a while. As far as all 12 passengers of the airplane were our fighting group. So what could he do one against two young people? He was older, like 40, in his 40s. No problem, without any need to even to beat him. Just take him, forcibly and throw him away on the ground. If you throw somebody in the air, it's end. No, when it lands, you just drag him outside. And there was another one sitting, there are two pilots. But we understood that the moment he will saw what is happening, he will give up. And then on the trial, by the way, the judge asked the second pilot, what would you do if these gangsters would try to take you over? So he looked at us, 12 young, strong boys like you. He thought, what could I do? So it was easy to do. And then Mr. Dimshitz would take the guide over of the airplane and go over. Like he told us that if this small airplane is flying on a height like 15 meters, even Russian Air Forces cannot find out. This mamish on the trees. It comes, like together, the tree and the airplane. And then the other problem was that Finland that time had a treaty with the Soviets that they are giving away everybody that try to run away. They wouldn't admit political refugees. In every country, if you run away from a state like Soviet Union, you are being considered as a political refuge, and you can get an asylum. Finland agreed that they will send us immediately back to Russia. Why? Anyway, it's why we had to go over Finland and over Baltic Sea and land in Sweden. So it's a longer trip. And Dimshitz, Major Dimshitz thought that we are afraid maybe it will be not enough fuel, not enough gas to go over it, not 50 miles, more than 600 miles. But there is no way out. This is the only possible way to do that. So imagine us coming in the evening. We come together for weekend from different places and met there in the forest at night. And we enjoyed it, to meet all the fighting group. And then Mr. Dimchitz came and divided in us in like somebody that will take over the pilot. And there are some people that he looked at them and told, you better sit back, don't do anything, don't go in anybody's feet. And there was a second group to support this first fighting group. So I was in the second group. And during it, you can imagine from outside, it looks very naive, very romantic. Young people laughing, making jokes. Anyway, after a while, some cars come up to our place, like some maybe 50 meters. But they were black cars. And we did know that the black cars means that they are from Secret Service, from the KGB. So we understood that they are coming to arrest us. The car stopped, and plainclothes people would walk out from the car, going to our direction. We were tensed. Now, what will happen? All of a sudden, they turned around and ran away and drove away. So some of the friends told, they know about us, let's run away. I contradicted. I told, what's the reason? If they really know about our preparation, it will not help. They will anyway arrest us. But then if we escape, it will be our failure. Let's go up to the end. What would mean the end? If they're really out to arrest us, let them arrest us, or even maybe kill us. But then we shall do our task. We shall win the battle. For soldiers die on the battlefield. What to do? We are soldiers of Am Yisrael. We have to fight and never retreat. So some friends were not that glad, but Major Dimshitz thought that I have right, and we decided we are going up to there. So next day in the morning, the forest close to the airport. We start going to the airport. I have to tell you that I was glad and excited. Some people during the lectures would ask me, why are you not afraid? I say, why? Soldiers are afraid. If you are afraid, you are a bad soldier. When you are a real soldier, and there is, Rambam says, right, there is a halacha of a soldier. When he goes to fight, he has to be glad. It is his privilege. He is not permitted to think about anything else. Not his family, not his father. Just go straight away and win the battle. I felt it is a privilege. For my nation, Am Yisrael in Soviet Russia were almost slaves under Soviet regime. And I am fighting for freedom for my nation. What a privilege. I, a regular Jew like you see me, I am not a hero, right? An old man, at the time I was younger, but still something very average, nothing special in me. And all of a sudden, I achieved this position to be with the frontier, that people go in the front of the battle. I believe you envy me. Everybody from you would like to be in my place. To go to save, to bring freedom to Am Yisrael. Unbelievable. So it was announced boarding, but as far as it was a small place, it was not a main airport, a local one. So we simply went by foot. And when I looked at my friends, I was the last in the row. I looked at them. We decided before we start boarding that we don't show that we knew each other, like separate tourists, each by himself. But I looked, from outside, you see the strong young man marching. It's like a military troop. I thought to myself, that time in the 70s, It was a Golani regiment. I told, now I am in Golani. I am already part of Golani. So I was proud to do that. And then I noticed that somehow my friends looking around and looking at me. What they're looking at me. That time I became already a Baal Tshuva. I believe I was from the first one that became Baal Tshuva in of the 60s. And I covered my head with a black beret. So when leaving the forest, the friends told me, remove the beret. It doesn't look well. You know, in Russia, it was summertime. People don't go with berets. So, you know, I felt that they are looking at me. They're looking on my beret. You know, they have nothing else to think about, you know, now being really in a bit of the fight, think about my black beret. But then I understood it's not my black beret. It's Mr. Dimshit, our pilot, that was missing. By they look, I was the last one, so they look in my direction, but they look for Mr. Dimshit. I look myself, you know, without a pilot, we can do anything. But now I am glad and I'm proud that I didn't lose my spirit. I told to myself, perhaps Mr. Dimshit, I saw him coming to the airport. He was not in the forest, for he was a resident of this city, Leningrad, Petersburg. So he has an apartment there, and he comes with his family, with his wife and two small daughters. So I figured that coming to the airport, they stayed outside the building. It's a small building in the local place in Soviet Union. So he stayed outside. I decided that maybe he did listen to the announcement, and I have to run to see him. I start running back, and indeed I found him sitting. He had even a guitar, and they had sandwiches. I got that angry with that. I thought, what you're doing, you know, we are going to save Am Yisrael from slavery, and you are eating your sandwiches. So Mr. Dimshit told, what, they start boarding? He looked at his watch, and he told there's something wrong, you know. Under the timetable, it should start later. Not now, it was like 8:30 a.m. It should start like after 9. Why it's early? He told me, I don't like it. It's something bad. I just stopped about it. I told him, stop talking about that. You know, it's not an army. You used to Soviet army. Everything is strict. It's not an army. So things change. He hesitated for a while, and he told, okay, I'm taking all the belongings, run back to my friends, tell them that I'm joining. I described you how excited I was before that. Now I was twice excited. I found the pilot. I saved the whole operation. Now coming back, I will tell the friends everything is going smooth. So when I reached the place I left the friends, I was beaten, thrown on the ground, and my hands handcuffed. So I was lying on the baton with my nose down there. I told, it's okay, it's what we expected, we arrested. But we are alive, you know, as we say in Yiddish, wieder good. It's good, we are alive, they don't kill us. Now they lifted me, I lost my glasses, but still I could see friends, or the time that I would run back and forth. They come up to the airplane, and they told me later that paratroopers jumped out from the airplane and arrested them on the spot. They tried to fight, you know what we can do. There was maybe more than 100 soldiers there. Paratroopers and soldiers with dogs and all kinds, you know, like a big military operation against us, 12 people, only with one gun. We had one gun and 2 knives, that's all. But still it sounds, you know, good, you know, a Jewish terrorist organization trying to harm state security. So it was no time to think about anything. The moment I heard shootings, like boom, boom, I turned around, they shot at Mr. Dimshit. So he come blooding, a lot of blood on his face, Later on, it turned out that it's nothing serious. But the moment it looked very terrible, a lot of blood, and his wife Nebuch crying, and the two small daughters all together lost, bewildered. What's happening? The father wouldn't explain that as we tried to escape from Soviet Russia. So each of us was taken to the building of this airport, questioning. You maybe will be serving in the Israel army. You know, when the moment you arrest somebody, you have to ask him to question him on the spot. For he is bewildered, then he can cooperate. Later on, when he stays for a longer time in the prison, it's much more difficult to break his will. So at the moment, I was pushed in a specific office, and there were two Russian colonels. One of them produced a list of the order of arrest me. The order would say, under the knowledge of intelligence service of Russia, KGB, on the territory of the airport, as acting Jewish terrorist organization. They try to harm state security, betray the Russian motherland, and run away to an imperialistic state. They should be arrested, questioned, and if it is true, they should be warned that they expect death penalty. So when I heard I saw the last line, the bottom line of death penalty, I was not that glad. But you would say, but you thought that you are a hero, you are ready to die. You know what? I figured that they can simply shot me during the fighting. So this is easy death. You know, you got a bullet in your head, that's all. You don't know anything. But now I have to go under their interrogation, and then there will be a trial. And if really they rule this sentence, I have to sit in my cell and wait until they take me to execute me. For this, you need really you need to be a hero. But I am not a hero. I would like to tell them I can do it, you know. But they never asked me whether I am able to do that or not. I had to. So I refused to cooperate. I refused everything. And they told me, okay, we saw people like you, you know, we break everybody. You will cooperate. Finally, you will cooperate. Now, take him to the prison of KGB. They put me in the same black car that we saw in at the evening, and drove me from the airport to their prison. When on the way, I could watch from a window of the car the city. It was morning, summer, a beautiful place. Leningrad nowadays it's Petersburg, built in 18th century, beautiful palaces, beautiful place, a lot of young people, students going to work, to study, people going to work, children to the school. It was life. And I lost my life. So I asked myself, maybe do you regret? Maybe it was a mistake. You are losing your life. I thought for a while, and I thought to myself, no, I don't regret. I know that if there is something valuable in your life, you have to sacrifice. Sometimes donate money, sometimes your time, but if it is really important to you, you have to invest your life. The freedom of my nation, Am Yisrael, is most valuable for me. And I'm glad that I was ready to sacrifice my life. So being put in this prison, there was searches, questioning, and etc. Not that easy. People got broken. You understand? Everybody is courageous. Before you start being questioned and searched and tortured, but when you are in a KGB prison, people got broken. Too bad. It was too bad. You know. Now, every day, some more people were arrested. For we were not only hijackers. Mostly we were involved in the Jewish educational underground movement. I was myself a Hebrew teacher. So they arrested my students. They arrested other teachers. And they told all you underground ulpanim are in fact groups to train terrorists. something very, very unpleasant. A lot of people were arrested in different places, in Leningrad, in Riga, in Moscow, etc., etc. But I will tell you something. I promise you speak for a short time. Now, imagine during the trial, a miracle happened. Indeed, people cooperated. I understood why the reason they arrested us red-handed in the airport. They did know about whatever we are planning to do beforehand, but they were interested to arrest us red-handed and then to break our will and to make us cooperate with them. For they were out to make a trial, a performance that each of us not only would admit guilty, it's nothing, mostly to call upon American jury and Israel jury. Sit back, don't get involved in our business. See, it is because of you, of American Jew, you infected us with these ideas of hijacking. It is because of you we are now expecting this penalty. And then we would call upon Russian jury and say, sit back, don't protest, got assimilated, intermarried, there is no other way out. Means use us, heroes, to make something altogether counterproductive. So, as I mentioned, even Mr. Dimshit, I'm sorry to admit, cooperated with them right there on the spot being arrested. He gave the names of people that were involved in the issue. More people were involved, people were arrested. So they started their performance and I asked Mr. Dimshit, you were a major in Russian Air Forces, you're a member of Communist Party, you got an engineer degree, you got everything from your Russian motherland. Why should you at all betray and behave this way to the motherlands that give you everything in your life? So Mr. Dimshitz, I understood, was according to their scheme the main performer. He stood up and he told, I accuse Soviet Union being anti-Semitic country. You are against Am Yisrael. You try assimilate us forcibly, and even the very fact that you support the Arabs against Israel has no reason, no political calculations. The only reason that you hate everything Jewish. And now we have our independent country, you try to ruin our country. And he went on, obviously, he did know for this courageous speech, he will deserve this penalty, but he was not afraid. And now later I understood why he behaved this way, being arrested. If they would feel that he will not play the role they needed, they could shut him before. So he would like the possibility to speak out. And then the moment he said the mode of behavior, all other friends, still they cooperated. They broke down, but when they saw their leader, the commander, behaving in this courageous way, everybody followed his example. I wouldn't cooperate, so they understood that I can't give anything to them. Anyway, I was the last one to be asked, and the judge asked me, Mendelevich, you studied in our university, you got whatever, the same kind. Why would you betray your Russian motherland? I told Russia is not my motherland. I told Ribbon Shalom gave Eretz Israel to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and I am their grandchild. So the prosecutor told to the judge, in vain would you ask Mendelevich the question, don't you know he's a religious fanatic? We can't understand how the man studied physics, thermodynamics in the university and is that limited that he is interested only in his land and in his God. I'm not fanatic. But when your enemy says that you are a religious fanatic, I am proud to declare, yes, I am a religious fanatic. You are afraid of me, I am it. So you can imagine what happened then. You mentioned Rabbi Kahana, Hashem Yikom Damo, and other people understood that we are fighting and they are fighters. we fought together. And it happened that after this harsh penalty for Mr. Dimshit and Mr. Kuznetsov were produced death penalty, Mamesh, in a week, they canceled all the harsh penalties, and every penalty was softened. It means the uproar, the protest, the demonstration worldwide, not only in America, worldwide, all of a sudden the Russians understood they cannot do it. The Russians believe that they are superpower. But now they met another superpower, much more mighty than them. Am Yisrael united in their struggle for our land, for our nation, for our emunah. It is stronger, the biggest superpower in the world. So the Russians, that time, for the first time, had to step back and give up and announce that they cancel all the death penalties, soften all the penalties. And then later on, after our trial, next day, they gathered together the heads of the Communist Party Politburo, and they told we were wrong and understanding what is going with Am Yisrael in Russia. We felt that we assimilated all of them. They became Russians. Now it turned out that it was a mistake. There are tens of thousands of Jews that still are nationalistic, dreaming of going to Eretz Yisrael. You have to let them out. They shouldn't infect others. But now we know, COVID virus, and you cannot stop with 10,000. It infects everybody. So when the moment we went to the prison, the gates of freedom opened. In 1971, first 15,000 Jews left Soviet Russia. Next year, 30,000. A year later, 35,000. So when I was in a prison and knowing that also I am in prison, other people got released, I told Ribbon Shalom, I am ready to stay as much as needed to get all people out from Soviet Russia. For it is the biggest privilege and the biggest mitzvah of Pidyon Shvuim to release others. So being in a prison, I made the mitzvah of Pidyon Shvuim. After 11 years in being in a prison, some 200,000 Jews got permission to leave. So, Pidyon Shvuim means mostly to buy each prisoner for money. You have to be a millionaire to buy freedom for 200,000 Jews. I am the millionaire. I invested my life and people were out. So it took 11 years until they brought me from my prison concentration camp to Moscow, and they announced that because of my bad behavior, I don't deserve anymore to be considered a Russian citizen. It took for them 11 years to understand that I don't fit their criteria. Immediately, see, it's my book. You see me in a black suit, it's in French, Pierre Cardin suit, and a black hat. It was not my uniform, believe me, in the prison. But I'm here, I'm out right from the prison, and they flew me to Eretz Yisrael. So in the airport in Moscow, before getting up on the plane, I talked to a certain KGB general that escorted me, and I told him, see, General, you arrested us 11 years before 11 years ago to prevent us to go to Eretz Yisrael. Now already 200,000 Jews left, and finally you bought a ticket for me just to get rid of me. I told the general, you have to admit that it was your mistake. And he admitted. And he told me, we could never believe that you people have this strong will of you. You know that Israeli soldiers are the strongest one. Azim ke'arayot. But it's not the reason. When he told me that we have this strong will, it made me remember a certain proverb in Zohar that I taught my students in my underground ulpan before being arrested. And you know some Hebrew. There is a proverb says, Ein davar haomed bifnei haratzon. Nothing can withstand this strong will. Haratzon means a specific will. Whose will? Ribbon Shalom. Elokei Israel wants us to be good in, strong, believer, trustful to our nation, to our land. And then nothing can withstand our strong will, his strong will. So you would like be heroes is the easiest way to do. Just follow his will, and nothing can withstand his will. Thank you.
We have a couple of minutes. I know you have to go soon. But I'll
I'm going to Israel only on Sunday, so I have enough time.
So I'll answer a couple of questions, and then we'll open up to the Talmidim as well. I read a lot about you, and there was time when you were insisting on wearing my kippah no matter what, and beating you and hitting you and torturing you. Did you ever have a doubt? Maybe you should take off the kippah, maybe they won't hurt me. Maybe it's better to take off the kippah, because I'm talking to the guys here. I see guys, they're playing basketball. Sometimes. I see guys going to pizza shop, or whatever, it's very windy. They don't have equipment. So what do you think about that? Or what's the message to the boys about not taking that?
I think, I had a solution. I had a kippah sruga, and always on the wind it flows. So I bought a black one, a big one. So now it stays. You are even playing best. I can keep it on my head, and even going in the wind, it's okay. So it's my recommendation: buy a good kippah, and don't need to remove it. But seriously speaking, okay, kippah is it's traditional. It's not in Shulchan Aruch. It's not the right of the Rabbanan. But it happened that when I had a kippah, like just express to show that I am Jewish, they were angry with that. I thought it's the Jewish tradition. Every Jew has to cover his head. And they understood that it's tradition. They tried to punish me for that. And I understood, there is in Gemara, says that even if how you call tzroch in an shoe license, even for that, if the goyim believes that it is important for you, also it's not that important. You have Yaregu Bal Yamu. For we are people that honor ourselves. We have Jewish pride. We never give up, never compromise. The Goyim has to know, even there is a small tradition to have the kippah, but we don't compromise on it. For if you start compromise of something small, you will finally compromise of everything. As we say, kala ki chamura. There is no difference in tradition. It's obvious when you compromise of something that you say it's not that important. It's obvious that finally you will compromise everything. So when I wouldn't give up, not removing my kippah, I understood that I in fact show them that I am strong. When somebody is weak, they start to try to break him. They say, forget about Mendelevich. He is strong, nothing will help. I'm not a strong man. But the best way to protect yourself is to show everybody I'm strong, nothing will help. So it was not a case of kippah. It was much more important. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, hold on.
I just wanted to say, follow up on Rabbi Friedman's question and what you answered. I didn't want to mention earlier, but I'm going to mention it now. And I want the boys to hear this. I have two friends in Israel, and they were Moshe Feigel and Shmuel Sackett.
Sure.
Okay, and you had a meeting with them once.
Oh, we were together.
And you were met in the Russian Quarter in Yerushalayim.
Yeah. Sure.
And they were waiting there, and they were wondering why you didn't come over, what was holding you back.
Yeah.
And they approached you and you told them, you're standing under the shade of a Makam Tumah, and I'm not going to get the benefit of having any hana from something that's Makam Tumah. That shows you, buffer, what a tzaddik this man is.
Means, again, not to compromise, nothing, there is nothing small, everything is important.
Another question, just to follow up on Mr. Langer's comments about Soviet Jewry rallies. Today, hundreds of thousands of Jews got out and went to Israel. We've had probably 50 rallies in the history of school against the Nazis. Welcome to
Solidarity Sunday.
right. Well, no, but this is against Nazis marching on
Yeah, sure.
our family. So the question is, people have asked, rally, what does it accomplish? Can you just speak to that?
Yeah,
Dr.
sure.
Rupert also, like, what was the purpose of the rallies? What message did it help with the Soviet government and also with the Jews that were born?
I'll tell you something before that. When I was released, it was after 11 years, 1981, we looked for ways to strengthen the fight for freedom. For still a lot of Jews were there in Soviet Russia, and that it was not easy to live. So we consulted foreign journalists in Israel what to do to attract public opinion. And he told me, you know what, I was a child. When I was a child, I saw somebody crazy running in the airport and chaining himself to a Russian airplane. It was that crazy that I understood that something special is happening. It was what IDF, Jewish Defense League, did. When you make something special, it attracts public opinion. Now people start thinking. You know, it goes, you build this political pressure step by step. To begin with public demonstration, wild, strong, it's in the papers. It's everybody's saying about that. Then senators and congressmen got interested, for they need your support. When they know that it is public, it is important, well, they will deal with that in Congress and the Senate. And when they are dealing with that in the Congress and the Senate, the president is interested. Understand? You have to build it step by step. You start it in the streets, it comes to Congress, to the parties, to the Knesset, and then it became something as a tool to change the policy of other countries. For example, when we were arrested and the protest started specifically in America, the head of Russian power, Brezhnev, called the head of KGB, of the local KGB, in a place that we were arrested, in Leningrad, and he asked the head of KGB, what's going on, you know? Presidents are calling me from different countries, stopping. What happened? So the head of KGB told, you know, we had a smart operation. We got in a trap 12 Jews, you know. He told him, you know, Mr. Brezhnev, the head of Soviet power, told the head of KGB, you got them in trap, you got me in trap, you know. And now everybody, whole the world is calling and pressing and sanction whatever, you know. So he fired the head of the KGB, understand? It's how it worked. Your people protested in New York and the head of KGB was fired. And then they understood that something is serious.
Your perspective.
Yeah, just to add to this, on an individual level, again, you live, you feel like you're the only ones left in the world after some disaster. The gates of Soviet Union there were almost no hope that they would ever open, and it seems like the Soviet Empire was infallible. So when somehow through your friends or through illegal broadcasts, or illegal from Soviet perspective, broadcasts of either Voice of America or Radio Call Israel, you hear about people doing something on your behalf, demonstrating in Washington, D.C., calling senators, or even, even making sure that no Soviet official is ever comfortable in the United States, like JDL used to do in Rav Kahana, Hashem Yikov Damam. That gave tremendous chizuk. I was the only Jew in my class for the first 7 years of school. I still have nightmares about those days. But let me tell you this, every day, every night that I heard in the news about a demonstration, or every act on the behalf of Soviet Jews, all of a sudden it gave tremendous chizuk, because then we felt like we were not alone, like somebody cares. That day I felt like saying to all those 30 or 40 people in my class who were about to try to assault me verbally and sometimes physically. So, you know, guys, a day will come, you'll still be here, idiots that you are. I will be out with my people. I'll be in Eretz Israel, I'll be in the United States. because somebody cares about me. Hundreds of people care about me. Hundreds of thousands of people care about me. Presidents, senators, congresspeople, rabbis, entertainers, people care about Soviet Jews, and that gave us tremendous chizuk. So do not underestimate the power of protest. Do not underestimate the power of coming out and demonstrating on behalf of other people.
Is there any particular event in your life that gave you the catalyst to change, to be interested about Judaism and Israel? And what I guess ability kept you going throughout your jail sentence?
Again, it's in my book, and it's a development. Yeah, it never,
Was there
you
any
know,
particular event? Was it
you know, what's important that we had our state is important. Understand? The moment I understood that I'm a Jew in Russia. The Russian, it's their country. It's not my country, but I have my state, my country. I have to be there. That's all. It's a special event. But then certainly it was step-by-step development. And if I start telling you all the stories without end, you know. But I will mention you something. You mentioned religion. When I was a boy of 10, here there is a photograph of that time. Moment, I'll find it. Okay. Here's my family in Riga. It's in Riga. In Riga. It's me, my father, my mother, two sisters. Like a couple months later, my father was arrested by police for false accusation, what was not true. And we understood that he will be sentenced. So after a while, after the interrogation, we went to see him in the court. And we are not permitted to see him in the court. We stayed outside. I was around 10 years old. And it was lost. Nothing can help. The Soviets will put him in the prison. And then all of a sudden, I felt that I can help my father. How a child can help his father. I start telling something like that. Please, please help my father out from prison. I promise you that I will behave well. I will be a good boy. I will do whatever needed. And then I stopped. I was, surprised. Who am I talking to? You understand? It was my first experience in praying, my tefillah, my first tefillah, as we say in Yom Kippur, tefillah zakah, a child. I was not atheistic. I simply did know there is no God. There is no God. And all of a sudden, my Jewish neshama discovered the God by itself and asked help my father out from the prison. So it is the first experience, traumatic one. But anyway, my father was sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment. And my mother got ill, got broken, and she died. So imagine me looking at this boy, 11, already 11. The father is in prison, the mother in the grave. What will happen? His life is lost. Not at all. I am sorry I don't have a photograph that was taken in the president palace in Israel. We have a new president, Israel Herzog. He invited my family, me and my two sisters, with all the siblings, the children, 100 people in Israel, It's our victory, it's our survival. The God, Ribbon Shel Olam, listened to my prayer, and it worked. How I know it? I'm here. I have a son, 3 sons that served in IDF. I have a son-in-law that is a pilot, etc., etc. Finally, it takes time, but as I told you, when you are doing right things and you are going the right way, the prayer works. The prayer by itself, tefillah by itself doesn't work. But if you do and pray, it works. Thank you.
boys have questions.
Oh, yeah, on the left.
Okay, good.
Whatever happened to their pilot Mendelevich?
No, Dimshits. What happened to Dimshits?
Dimshits, you know, something strange happened. Dimshits and Kuznetsov as well. Kuznetsov is a Russian boy. He take part by chance, by mistake, doesn't matter. They were released before me. They served only 9 years in the prison, came to Israel, and Dimshits passed away at age 88 in Rehovot. I stayed there 2 years more. And one Russian officer told me, you know why you are friends? All hijackers were released except of me. Why you are still in prison? For you are religious. Stop being religious and they will release you. I just laughed, you know. To be religious, what means be religious? But I'm religious this way. It's my emunah. Emunah. Emunah never you can give up. My emunah, my belief is a privilege, my privilege. I'm glad that I was born Jewish. You know, when I was a child, I was ashamed being Jewish. I pretend behaving Russian. For the Russian was a leading race. They are white people. And we Jews, second grade. So I was ashamed being Jewish. And now I know that it's the best privilege in my life that I'm Jewish. I'm glad it's a benefit. To give my emunah, to give up my privilege being Jewish, in no way. So Mr. Dimshits and his wife and his children, and he has, by the way, grandchildren, so officers in Israel.
Russia's Minister of Foreign Affairs yesterday came out and said that their goal is to reunite the Soviet Union either by diplomacy or by force. Do all the Jews that live in these countries, should they be worried about a new Soviet Union?
Explain me better.
Okay, let me amplify the question.
Yeah.
I guess, given what's happening today, Russia and Ukraine,
Yeah.
I just want to put this out there. It's hard for a Jewish person to say, I like Russia and all the terrible things they did to all Israel
Yeah,
over the years. I like Ukraine, all the terrible things they did to us during the Shoah.
yeah.
So I told the boys, it's true, they're both bad, but we have 400,000 Jews in Ukraine, we have to help them. So the question is, should the Jews be afraid in Ukraine? And what about the Jews? How do we think this out? How do you play this out?
You know, I am not that keen in Ukraine. As a matter of fact, I am not from Russia. I'm not from Ukraine. I'm from Latvia, from Riga. But anyway, certainly, Jews are not specifically as Jewish in danger. You understand? Just the opposite. Russia and Ukraine is friendly with Israel. And the chief rabbi of Russia, Belazar, is very close and friendly with Putin. And same in Ukraine. So no specific danger. But certainly when you are sitting in a shelter and being bombed or even going in the street, is really it's dangerous as for everybody, but not specifically for the Jews. Understand?
Okay, can you talk loud?
Yeah. So when you were saying your story, you said that when you were carrying out your mission, you weren't scared, and rather you were excited. So how did you reach that level of not being scared and even being excited about carrying out the mission, like having the privilege?
A good question. You know, I ask myself. We have in Israel. You know what's going in Israel army? There is Sayeret, task forces. You know how people are being selected to task forces. They have, a lot of young people like you would like to be part of task forces. So they went on through all kinds of tests, and they are, like Avraham Avinu, went through 10 experiences. And finally, he got it. I got my first experience when my father was arrested. I was good at the experience. So the Rebbeinu Shalom moved me next, and then next, and finally I was mobilized to serve in his of the Sayeret of the task force of Rebbeinu Shalom. It's a question of selection. Each time, each day, everybody is going his experience, his test. Try to be strong This first text, you test, you will be moved to another one until you'll be among the most courageous people. I believe if I would be in IDF, I was in IDF, but as an older man. Well, if I would be a young one, certainly I would be in the Sayeret Matkal of it. It depends, it's the way I was born and created by the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Why do you think that when compared to the Shoah, survivors of like the Russian gulags and the camps, like you hear survivors of the Holocaust and talk about their experiences in the camps, but you never really see like survivors of gulags come out and speak about their experiences, or I guess like Jewish survivors speak about their experiences. So why do you think that is?
So begin with, I am kind of survivor, right? I am now almost 75. My time, there were prisoners, we call it prisoner of Zion. They were in 60s, in the 70s. They simply passed away, too old to tell you the stories, And not, it depends. Even if you met survivors from the Holocaust, not everybody knows how to tell his story. You have to have some other capacities to be able to tell what is happening. See, I would remember all in small details for 300 pages. My friends are not, again, the question, why you? Why me? Maybe I am talented to remember and to tell the stories. Others are not. It depends. People went through Dimshit, by the way. Finally, when he passed away, his daughter found a diary, and it's being published. It is in English, by the way. So again, the question is individual. You can write yourself a book. I ask you, whatever I said, you will be able to write a book, memories. Who knows? It depends. Maybe a friend next to you will do it. It depends. Mostly some survivors, and then you have to remember, there were 6 million or more in the Holocaust. Statistically, there are much more possibilities. Some of 6 million or 10 millions, some of them will be able. Still, we are talking about the fight for freedom for Soviet Jewry, how much were involved? Maybe thousands. So statistically, it's less a possibility that there will be somebody able to tell the story. Say, Sharansky, my friend, had this story. Ida Noodle has this story. Other no. It's the question of muzzle.
Okay.
You said you were involved in the underground yeshiva. How did you first get involved in this underground yeshiva in Russia?
It was not really in yeshiva. We were not that educated, For as a matter of fact, it was in the 30s and 40s, before the Holocaust, that the communists massacred, killed all Rabbi. Nobody left. After the Holocaust, nobody left. Almost, understand? And then when I was born after the Holocaust, there were simply people all were ignorant. Hardly people could educate. So we tried to get some information. We got some old books from libraries. It was not a real issue. But still, again, which is important, it was almost impossible. But everybody has to know. People say, it's impossible, it is impossible, which is true. But if you have this strong will, it will be possible. That I learned Hebrew by myself, it was almost impossible. That I start teaching other people, it was almost impossible. But it was badly important for me. It's why I made a specific effort. If people are ready to make a specific effort, it will be possible. So finally, we never had yeshivas. Nowadays, there is in Russia yeshivas, but better is instead of staying in Russia, you can go to America or Israel to be in yeshivas. That time we wouldn't have yeshivas. We taught Hebrew, we taught Jewish history, and some tradition. That much.
Just curious, back in the 70s, there was a lockdown on all religion, but on Simchat Torah, thousands of Jews would come from out. How did they do? No internet, there's no texting. So how did everybody hear about it?
And it's like from mouth to mouth, and what's important is a good question. I mentioned that there were the generation of prisoner of Zion. You know that in 1917, almost more than 100 years ago, the communists, socialists, took over the power in Soviet Russia. And they announced that they are out from science, technology, and what disturbs technology and science to develop religion. Religion is an obstacle in developing science. So it is how they closed all the yeshivas, all Talmudei Torah, and killed all the rabbis. They're against religion, they killed them. Anyway, in a smash of it, the underground Jewish movement went on. From 1917 up to my age, there were waves, generation of prisoners of Zion. And I was told by prisoners of Zion that were released in the 60s, when they got released, they told, we noticed that your young generation, me, got assimilated. You know what's the rate of assimilation now in America? How much people got assimilated in new generation? 80%. 80% of mixed marriages in your generation and generation before. In the same we had in Soviet Russia some 60 years ago. Mixed marriages, assimilation. And then the prisoner of Zion released from the prison sat and looked for a way to prevent assimilation. And they thought the only reason or only step we can do is to meet young people. You meet people I was in Riga, we had a population of around 1 million of residents. And among us, there were some 30,000 Jews. Not community, just discourse. So statistically, there is no chance that a Jewish boy will meet a Jewish girl and will marry. So create possibilities to meet. And they sort of ways half legal to meet. And they decided, let us announce that in a synagogue, you can meet friends. And it happened with me. When I was in high school, I was still somehow ashamed being Jewish and altogether ignorant. What does it mean being Jewish? But as a privilege, in my class, there were some Jewish friends. And one day they announced, today we are not studying. Today is a new year. I told of this friend, what in New Year? It is like November. You thought it's a Jewish one. Too bad, I thought to myself. I'm Jewish, and even a New Year we have different than others. So what to do? He told, let's go to the synagogue. He was already activist in this underground. Let's go to the synagogue. Me, a young man interested in science, anti-religious, to go to the synagogue. But what to do? There were some girls that would go to the synagogue and some boys. So I went, I felt bad with that, I'm Jewish and I'm going to synagogue. I do. Well, but when I came to the synagogue, there were some more boys like me, maybe some hundreds of them. It was good. So I make friends. I enjoyed staying there. So I asked, when they will have another holiday. It was Rosh Hashanah, something. When they will have another holiday? In 10 days, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a holiday. It's not but for me, it doesn't, for me, the Jewish holiday is a pretext to meet friends. So I come 10 days later, again, the street and the yard were full with young people. We joined, never thought about Yom Kippur, what means that Yom Kippur is another reason to meet together. And then somebody told me, come next week. We shall have another holiday. What holiday? Sukkot. And then it was Simchas Torah. It's how I thought to myself, if somebody, a rabbi, would come up and say, Yosef, you belong to Am Yisrael, you have to go to the synagogue. what he is telling about, he's trying to wash my brain. I'm an independent, I don't believe in God, I don't trust anything. But it happened without my decision. And this is why we say hashgocha, like a mighty hand decided, and again, a kind of answer of previous question. Somebody decided on me that I have to go to synagogue. No, nobody demanded. It's just reason to go with friends to spend time. Step by step, I got involved. And out of million of 2.5 million of Jews, how much would go to the synagogue at the time? Maybe some thousands of them, and I was among them. So it was a wise decision of the prisoner of Zion to start meeting people in the synagogue. And the second place, which I will not tell, rebuilt the place of massacre, Babi Yar, Rumbula, and different other places. It's clever decision of the prisoner of Zion.
So I know you want to break for lunch. I want to thank Dr. Rabbi.
Lunch is very important.
Thank you very much. Hold on, wait. Oh, clap. Yosef, now we know his name, for your courage, your sacrifice, and dedication to Torah, which inspired us all on behalf of all of the Talmidim here at Rambam and the world over. Thank you. 29 Ado 1 5.
Now it is your turn. Now it is your turn. You can't get even more than a plate. If not, buy baseline.
Okay, we'll buy some of these books, so we'll have them in the library. Okay, guys, good job. Thank you very much.